Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kajal, and I'm a volunteer at the Untitled Foundation. Today, in this series of webinar presented to you by the Untitled Foundation, we'll be exploring the potential of pop culture to influence socio-religious harmony. This lecture will be presented to you by Professor Farhat Nasreen. Professor Nasreen is a full professor at the Department of History, Jamia Millia Islamia. She taught military history to the cadets at the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, before joining JMI. She has also authored 5 books and 18 articles. So we'll start our lecture at 6 p.m., that is now. And this lecture will go on for 45 minutes, after which we'll have our Q&A session. You can send in your questions in the chat box so that we can take it to our speaker at the end of the lecture. I'll now invite Professor Nasreen to take us further. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kajal. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, you are.
Okay, fine, right. So I thought that I'll first begin with, kind of defining what is pop culture. Kajal, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, fine, right. So we first look at what pop culture really is, right? So we find that there is, there are practices, there are objects, there are, belief systems which all become very dominant in a society in a particular period of time. And when those things become very popular in that period of time, they become what we call the pop culture. Now, to begin with, if we think of the idea of the pop culture, you would find that it was, it was something which was localized. It was something which was important in a given lingual context or in a given socio-cultural context. But as we globalized and as the means of communication became much more faster and better, we find that what we had now was a global culture. So there was a global culture, and there was a global society, and there is therefore now a global pop culture. So now we deal not just with something which is localized, but we are now dealing with a lot of people. And since we are dealing with a lot of people, therefore pop culture in itself will become a very powerful tool in in taking the society or taking people or masses in a certain direction. And in fact, it's not just about the lay masses. Once you know the power of pop culture, you would know that how it is manipulated by big political houses, big economic houses, how they are going to manipulate this for their advantage, right? So then we look at what are the sources of pop culture. So you'd find that the sources of pop culture, you would have films, say for an example, films, there are TV soaps, there are books, there are music, there are songs and comic books. And then there is, of course, the whole everything which is there on the internet. Then you have the WhatsApp, you have the Instagram, you have social media. All those things are a part of, they're tools of the pop culture. So they kind of reflect the pop culture, and they also kind of feed it. So it's a two-way process. Now the Marxists were one of the first people to have a take on the pop culture, and they said, like, there is a Marxist philosopher whose name is Adamo. So Adamo, and there's Jameson, there is Eagleton. They all said that pop culture is a tool for commercialization, because you say that something is popular, you create a demand for it, and you make people feel that, well, this is the in thing, we have to do this, and then you sell that thing. So they said that this is a tool of commercialization. Now we find that as we moved, from the when the industrial revolution happened, thereafter there were a lot of machinery that came. There were some countries that industrialized, and therefore they became richer than the others. So there was, there was an economic dynamics which was which was introduced. So there were some people in the world who had more money, who had more time. So they had more money, more time. So there was a demand which came up for entertainment, you see, because people who are just hand to mouth, they don't have a demand for entertainment, but these guys had. So you now find that there will be, you know, things that will come up. So you will have things that will come up, say, for example, films will come up, songs will come up, fashion industry is going to come up because people have money. Now, say, we think that, well, in the 16th century also, there was some kind of entertainment which was happening because you have those series of, you know, plays which were there. The Greek plays were always there. But then they were a part of what we may call the elite culture. So there was actually, you know, there was a culture which was an elite culture, which was beyond the reach of the common man. And then there was a localized culture, which was, you know, the folk culture. So you would have people telling stories at home. There'll be people, children, you know, reciting poetry at home. You will have local legends, like all the tribes, for example, they will have their own local heroes. They will have tribal heroes, and there will be legends associated with them. So that was the kind of culture which existed for the ordinary people. But there was, of course, a high class culture which would go into, say, the Shakespearean drama, or the Greek plays, or, you know, the operas and stuff like that. But after Industrial Revolution, we find that there was, you know, there was disbursement of this cultural activity, right? So now there was a distinction which was made between what we call the pop culture and what is popular. So the pop culture was something which has got a popular appeal, which appeals to a lot of people, while popular would mean that somebody or something may become randomly popular. You know, say you find that maybe there is a movie star who's popular, but then he doesn't become a part of the pop culture, you see. But maybe, say, supposing there is a particular kind of a dress that he wore, say there's a particular kind of a t-shirt that he wore, which becomes very popular with people. So that will become a part of the pop culture, while the hero remains popular. So there was a line of distinction between what was popular and what is pop culture. Then we find, you know, the people who are studying sociology and you know, sociology, economics, anthropology, history, they realize that there is a connection between pop culture and commercial culture. The commercial culture also may be called the mass culture. So there was a pop culture, which became a mass culture, which became a commercial culture. And this led to mass consumerism. Now, who are the people who are feeding this mass consumerism? You have the mass media, which is going to help in the popularization of the pop culture and sustaining it, right? So earlier there was this idea that whatever was the leftover, whatever was the unnoticed residue of the high culture, that was pop culture. But gradually, as you have democracy which grows, there's a consciousness of rights, there's a consciousness where people feel, you know, that we are as good as, you know, you have the middle classes maybe feeling that we are as good as the upper classes. The upper classes feeling that, well, we are as good as the uber rich, and the lower strata thinking that, well, we are as good as the middle classes, or maybe even higher. We can emulate anybody. So once you have those barriers which, you know, kept people segregated, once those barriers broke because of democratization, you find that there is a popular culture which overtook what we earlier called that there was a high culture or there was a classic culture. So this, we find that you therefore have, you know, a culture which enters into every place. And now if you have something which is potent enough to enter into every place, then it becomes very powerful. You know, then you have to handle it carefully, because otherwise, if it has a limited, kind of excess, then it's okay. There might be a minority which is, you know, feeling good or bad about a certain issue. But when you can generate mass feelings of, you know, hatred, mass feelings of resentment, distress, then it becomes a very difficult kind of a thing. So we now find that pop culture therefore now did not remain exactly time and place specific. So it became broader than that, but it kept evolving, right? And then we find that if we have to go back to the root of the pop culture, we'll have to go back to the folk culture, we'll have to go to the household, we'll have to go back to the grandma's tales and the local poems and legends and so on and so forth, and see what they were saying and what are we saying now. Okay. So the earlier folk culture had the simplicity, what I would say, the word of mouth simplicity. I mean, you would have one grandma, say for example, who was great at telling stories, she had a style which was inborn, so people loved it. Now when you are not looking at the grandma stories, you're looking at commercial engines who are working to create a culture. Then there are experts, there are psychologists who work, who try to understand how people think and how do you get inside their heads. So now it is not about word of mouth simplicity, it's an industry, it's complicated. And therefore what now lies beyond what we see as the pop culture is actually what one would say a culture industry. And the culture industry uses the media to influence the minds of the people because they would have their own agendas. Now, as people who are recipients of what this culture industry doles out in our plate, so it's actually as if people are sitting in rows and they are waiting for food to be given into their plate. So the media and the this culture industry is going to pour stuff in your plate and you eat it and it gets right inside your head. So then, like, we would watch, if we are having our food, we watch what are we eating. You see, we would not eat anything which harms us. So this is something which goes into our head. It tampers with the way we think. So therefore we have to then watch out this also, that what are we doing. Now again, a number of sociologists and also especially the people with a Marxian and a leftist bent, they say that this culture industry has itself rigged the vote before which it bends. So it first creates a mindset which will create a certain kind of demand, then they will make a supply and they'll say ki bhai, I am supplying this because there is a demand for this. If you cancel the demand, we'll stop supplying. So you have vulgar and obscene things all over the place. You ask them to stop it, they'll say, bhai, isi ki demand is, that's why we are supplying this. To stop the demand, we'll supply this. But they are a part of creating the demand. So there, when you think of the social distress, you think about, enmities, hatred. And when I come to this, the next thing is when I'll come to this in more detail, you would find that they work very systematically in this as well. Now, Noam Chomsky said that, media is a machinery of propaganda. Okay. So therefore you can hype anything. So what we earlier thought was a pop culture or a popular culture, which emerged on its own. There was a flow to it. There was a simple flow to it. Now we don't have a simple flow. It's mechanized. And then we find that there is a focus on maximization of pleasure. Okay, now that is something on which most of the researchers agree, that there is an emphasis on maximization of pleasure. So say supposing you are told that there is a constant pressure on you to be happy. See, happiness is a big deal. So you are constantly told that you have to be happy. And if you're not feeling happy, then there is something wrong with you. That is the thing which the whatever you see around you is telling you. You open your Facebook, you find that everyone's going on a holiday. You feel that, well, everyone's looking so beautiful. I'm the only one who's not looking beautiful enough, you see, because you open your Instagram, you see people in excellent clothes, beautifully dressed, and you feel, well, there's something which is wrong with me. So now what happens is that if you are told that, see, so and so as a person or so and so as a group is responsible for your unhappiness for whatever reason. Okay, so you can draw something from the past, you can draw something from the present, you can scare people about their future, and you say that, well, these are the guys who are going to tamper with your happiness. They tampered with it in the past and they'll do it in the future. Now, because happiness is, there's a fixation on happiness. Now, the whole thing is this, that we need to first understand that happiness is an emotion and it's a highly overrated emotion, And why is it overrated? Is because emotions are a passing thing. They are nothing static. You may feel happy for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, something happens and you are unhappy again. Or maybe, you know, after another half an hour, you are again happy. So emotions are nothing that they are not bankable. See, because they are meant to be like this. They are flowing. So you can't, you know, decide on passing a judgment on any set of people, or passing a judgment on any kind of, you know, ethics, any kind of values, any kind of systems, just because you believe that they will not make you feel happy. Because happiness is a overrated emotion. It is passing. It is never ever permanent. It's never going to be permanent. You are told that there is this problem in your life. Your life has, say, supposing in your life there is a certain person who's a problem. You remove him and you'll be happy. No, there's something else which will come up, because life means problems. So you only have to negotiate through problems. That is the important thing. Now, how does the pop culture then work? I mean, how does it creates a hype? So how does it create a hype? You will find that there will be, you know, suddenly something will come in vogue. Just like wo jo Harry Potter ki series thi, they came in vogue, you know. So you will have caps, you will have cups, you will have it logoed on school bags, school bottles, pencil boxes, and so on and so forth. So you reach out in every way, everywhere, so that even if people are not reading what you write, even if they're not listening to you, if they're just passing by the market, they see a product and they register. So then you build the hype of a pop culture and you kind of give momentum to it, you speed it up. So now we find, you know, that therefore you have to choose. It's important that you have to choose, and you have to be very, very conscious in choosing, because while to you it may seem that choosing is that it's a simple thing. There are two choices and you made one of the choices. But there are people who work day and night to create those two choices for you. They will create two choices for you, you see. And there is what they are stealing you of is that actually in life there are not just two choices, there are multiple choices. So वो जो multiple choices का, you know, आपका vision है, वो vision को ये block कर देते हैं. कैसे block करते हैं? Because they will repeatedly tell you something. Now how do they tell you something? Okay. Now, first thing that you have to remember is that being happy all the time is not a goal. There have to be other goals in life, because which are more static, which are more, you know, which are calculable, because happiness is not calculable, it's not tangible, it's not permanent, it's not static. So you have to focus on permanent goals and choose your goals carefully. So if you're thinking that, well, I want peace in my life, I mean, you cannot have peace in your life if you go around fighting with your neighbors. No, that's not happening. So you have to, if you choose, you know, if you choose that, well, I have to, you know, appear for this exam and I have no time to waste, then you have no time to fight. Clearly, I mean, that's a fighting with people and creating negativity all around is a full-time job. So you can't afford to do stuff like that. So you have to focus. And when you focus, you have to have very clear goals, and you have to focus on your goals and not focus on your emotions. That is very important, because emotions are very fickle. Then the other thing is that you must understand that everything in life which seems good to you will have some kind of a negative attachment with it. You see, say supposing you want to go for a holiday, you want to go for a journey, right? And you want to go, say I want to go to Goa. So my going to Goa means that I'll have to go to the airport and I will be sitting at the airport for hours. It's difficult. I'll be, you know, negotiating through with all kind of, you know, taxi walas, all kinds of vague people that I may meet on the way. And I'll be passing through a lot of filth and dirt to finally reach there. So maybe the Goa experience will be great, but it doesn't mean that I didn't have a series of negative experiences with it. So everything, say supposing you want to do very well in your profession, you'll have to work hard. You'll have to sit up in the night. Perhaps you will not be, you know, having say 10 hours of sleep every day because you can't afford it. So therefore every positive comes with a negative. So don't think that if I eliminate these elements, if I eliminate, you know, these certain things from out of my life, then I'm going to be in a plus plus. You're never going to be in a plus plus. There is always a balance between the negative and the positive, and you have to know how to strike the right balance there. Okay, I'll tell you a small story. There was a family in which the father was a drunkard, and he had two sons. So one of the sons said that I can't do anything with my life. See, my father is a drunkard. He beats both of us every day. So I can't study. So he kept failing, and eventually he also became a drunkard. The other son thought that my father is a drunkard. I'm not going to be like him. He beats his sons. I'm not going to be like him. He never earned a penny. I'm not going to be like him. So one son thought that I can't be anything else except being like my father because my circumstances are so bad. And the other one thought that I'll ensure that my children are not in these circumstances. So basically what we need to understand is that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to it. So if you have a certain kind of a popular, idea, which is floating all over around you, it might be floating all over television, all over the internet, all over your WhatsApp, whatever, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean that you're going to go with that flow, or how you are going to react to that flow has to be your own choice. So you have to make that choice, and always know that there are no two choices. There are more than two choices. There are multiple choices. Then we come to the idea that everyone doesn't love you and everyone doesn't hate you. So, get over that. I mean, so many times we think that everyone in the world hates us, okay? Or everyone in the world hates me, therefore I have to hate them back. Or everyone in the world loves me, so therefore, I deserve the best of everything because I am so lovable. No, neither of this is true. Now, how does this work? It works like this, that you would often find, and often this thing comes from people's parents. The parents keep telling their children when they are small that, beta, you are perfect. You are perfect. You did everything right. Koi baat nahi. You came, fifth in the class. No, don't worry, because you should have come first. But your teacher is a cheat because she is partial or he is partial. That is why, beta, you didn't come first. Otherwise, you would have come first. Or you would say that, you would have come first, but the other guy who has, surpassed you, he must have cheated in the exam because you can't be bad. See? Now, once you begin with a mentality like that, where you think that I am the best, I am, worthy of everyone's love, I am perfect, my past is perfect, my present is perfect, my future should be perfect, everyone should love me. Well, that's not happening because the world doesn't owe you anything, and you have to get out of this sense of entitlement. Now, in the recent past, we have noticed a lot of people getting hurt over, trivial issues. So there will be people who've taken an addiction to getting offended. So it's become so difficult, for anybody to speak anything, to write anything. There are objections being raised to films. There are objections being raised to, songs which are being written. And all that is a piece of it's fiction. It has no real meaning, but there are people who get offended. So this is, an addiction to being offended. And why do you feel offended? Because you feel that you are perfect, because everything about you is correct. And anyone, and you just imagine, and you feel that, well, everyone, the world is jealous of us. The world is our enemy. And that is why this is happening to us. So we have to protest and we have to go on fighting for this. You have to understand that you had no control over your past, and half of the people don't even know what their past is. So leave that alone. What you have with you is your present, and how you manage your present and your present relationships and your present responsibilities. And believe me, there is so much to do in the present that a lot which is not around you right now should be left to the people who deal with it professionally. I mean, there's really no need for you to waste your time by getting into it. So you have to drop this sense of entitlement. Now I'll give you a story here quickly. There was once a king, and every day he used to come out for what is known as the Jharoka Darshan. So he would stand at the window and people would look at him. So one day he came out and there was a beggar there, very dirty, filthy. He thought he was ugly looking. And then the king got a headache. So he came back to his chamber and he said, go and check out on that beggar. He was such a, unfortunate, unlucky chap that I just had one look at him and I've got a headache. And I don't want such a person in my kingdom. We are going to execute him. So the beggar was brought in and he was told that you are going to be executed because you gave a headache to the Badshah. So the beggar said that I want to speak to the Badshah before I'm killed. And he went to the Badshah and he said, sir, you saw my face first thing in the morning and you got a headache. And I saw your face first thing in the morning and I'm going to be killed today. I'm going to be executed. So between the two of us, who do you think is more unlucky? And who's the one who should not be alive on the face of this earth? So then the king said, thinking that, well, he's right. So, because the king had a sense of entitlement. While this, and that's why he thought that the beggar is responsible for my headache. You will have your set of problems either ways. So it's useless complicating things by implicating others. So we have to drop self-pity, self-pity from popular culture. I mean, there are people, there is a group of people who would be working day and night to project a certain group as, the victims. And when we are talking about, the victim and the perpetrator of a crime, we need to have a balance there. I talk a lot on, gender issues and a lot of pro-women talk I do. But it doesn't mean that people who are talking about pro-women issues don't have to be conscious about the rights of men. There has to be a balance there also. So everything that you take up has to have a balance. That's very, very important. And you need to understand that, see, you are not perfect and everyone's not jealous of you. So what you have to do is you have to accept your flaws. All of us have flaws. So if you're looking for perfection, it creates disharmony. So you have to first understand that I am not perfect. And neither is the other person perfect. So I have flaws, I am okay, you are okay, I am flawed, you are also flawed, I have problems, you have problems, I have issues, you have issues, and let's work them out together. If you say that I am perfect and you have all the issues, then you are heading towards a deadlock. Because, and really that's a deadlock, because that is not how human beings are. Now, the other mentality is, I will prove them wrong. This is, a vengeful mentality, which is promoted in popular culture a lot. You have films where people would say, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you now.
Right. So then you have this whole idea, of being revengeful, where you say that, well, I'm going to prove that I was better than the other person. You have so much of it going around, You look at advertisements, it's there. You look at movies, it's going to be there. The idea of proving the other person wrong, proving that if someone, betrayed you, belittled you, insulted you, then you have to prove something to them, right? So this is a very dangerous thing, because then you making revenge a goal of your life. That is your agenda. Now, say I am somebody who is dumped by my boyfriend, right? I'm dumped by my boyfriend, and I think, well, I'm going to prove something to him, and therefore I work very hard, and I achieve a lot, and I earn a lot of money, and I look amazing, and yeah, so I do everything to prove that I am better than you, and I try to make him feel unhappy. So supposing I do all of that, and at the end of it I find that he's still not unhappy, then what do I do? Because that's what I'd made the goal of my life, to make him feel unhappy. Or say supposing, and now this works even at the societal level, even at the community level. So there might be a whole group of people who want to run down another group of people. So you can imagine that what kind of a negative energy and what kind of a negative agenda this whole idea of I am better than you and I will prove them wrong is going to generate. It's absolutely horrifying. And then what happens is that you need to understand that what is happiness for you. Is making somebody else unhappy, is that happiness for you? You have to answer that question. That is making somebody else unhappy, is it going to make me happy? If no, then what are those things which are going to make you happy? So you have to then kind of make a list of things which are going to make you happy, which are not connected with somebody else's unhappiness. Because supposing you have someone who has decided that he's never going to be unhappy ever in life, if you are dealing with somebody who's as strong as that, then what do you do? Now, this typically is called the astronaut syndrome. The astronauts train all their life to become astronauts. And, it is their life's dream that they are going to go into the space. And when they come back from the space, most of them go into deep depression and they become alcoholics, because they have this feeling where they do not know what's next, because they kept preparing for one thing, they do it, and that's the end of it. Now they don't know what to do next. So when your goals in life are connected to bigger goals, say supposing they are connected to the lives of other people, say supposing they're connected to the lives of communities, society, humanity. So if you have goals which are huge, then you do not stop at a point where you do not know what next. There's a lot to do because it's an unending path. So now, therefore, what you need to, there was a film called Badlapur, if some of you may have seen it. The movie Badlapur focused on the idea of revenge, and there was a hero and there was a villain. And the hero had to take revenge from the villain, and he, in that quest to take revenge from this villain, the hero committed end number of atrocities. He committed end number of injustices. He turned out to be even more cruel than what the villain was. And eventually the villain dies of cancer. And there is a woman who asked the hero, that was the end of the movie, she asked him that the man with whom you had made the goal of your life was to take revenge. And the man from whom you wanted to take revenge is now dead. So what are you going to do now? What will you do now? Because you had nothing left. He had already murdered a train of people. The hero had already murdered a train of people. And he just doesn't know what to do next with himself. So this idea of, I'll prove them wrong. I'm going to take revenge. I'm going to equalize some wrong of the past. I'm going to, kind of teach people a lesson. I think all that is absolute crap. And if it goes around in social media and goes around in pop culture, you have to just step aside from this pop culture. You don't have to contribute to this kind of a ridiculous pop culture. Then the other thing is, how do you do this? How do you, how do you say, well, this is a pop culture, but I'm not a part of it. You can do this when you switch your value systems. So how do you switch your value systems? You say that, well, I'm going to have my own value systems. Your value system may not be the popular value system. You are an individual. So you have to have an individual value system that is very, very important for you. So you have to dare to say no to something maybe which is going around in the popular culture. जिसको हम लोग, we call it in Hindi that you have to choose between akal and nakal. So whether you want to copy or you want to use your intellect when you have to decide something. So you do not have to copy. The other thing is that you want to understand, you have to know that you have to decide that what is more important for you. Who am I? Is that important for you? Or how I feel is more important for you? If how I feel becomes more important for you, that means your personal happiness becomes much more important for you. And personal happiness is not related to, what you possess. In fact, it's not related to how much you earn. In fact, it's related to how you earn. It is related to how many friends you have. It's related to how many people you have helped in life. It's related to how many lives you have bettered because of your presence. It's related to all of those things. So then you have to, you have to understand this. Like in hate is an industry. In the popular sense, in the pop culture, in whatever common culture we have, hate is an industry. And how does it function? It functions in a way that it'll first begin with making you hate yourself. Now, how do you hate yourself? The people who work in this industry, they catch on to your weakness. Okay? So like, say, for example, if I'm not fair enough, I hate that about myself, right? Supposing I feel that, well, I should, I should be 10 kgs less fat than what I am. So I am not, happy with the way my body is. I feel that I should be 10 kgs slimmer. So I'm not happy with that. That's my weakness, So they will catch on to this weakness, and then they are going to rub it into my head every day. So every day they'll say that, well, if you're not fair, you're not getting a job. If you're not fair, you're not getting married. If you're not fair, your boyfriend's going to run away in the opposite direction. Well, if you don't get a job, you're not liked by people. So they will play up on this. And once they play up on this, I'll keep trying product after product to improve myself, because I think that is improving myself, So they know my weakness and they'll work on it very systematically, and they'll cover every space in it, In 10 years ago, they used to work like this, that if you're not fair, you're not getting married. Now, a few years ago, they started working that if you're not fair, you're not getting a job, you see. So because more women have come into the work field, so now they started advertising like that. So then we need to, and in the same way, if they know your weakness, that there is a weakness whereby you feel a sense of entitlement, you feel that you are perfect, there is a little bit of a feeling where you feel, that I have been wrong and you are into self-pity. They're going to use that self-pity, and they'll use that self-pity.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, your video is stopping in the middle. I think there is some network issue.
Wait. I'll just change my internet. I'll just change the other.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's breaking in the middle, actually.
Just let me see if I can. I switched my internet connection now.
Yes, it's working now.
Better? Okay, right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, so you find that this hate industry works at two levels. It works at a personal level, it'll make you hate yourself. And then it works at a big level where it's going to make, they'll make some people seem like the other. And when I talk about the other, it may be anything, it may be, say, gender-based otherness. It might be, racial otherness. It might be religious otherness. It might be regional, linguistic, any kind of otherness. So then they create the idea of otherness, and then they make you hate that otherness, because they'll pump you with a sense of so much of pride in whatever you are. so that you start feeling that everything else is wrong and everyone else is wrong. So, and the same thing, in the same way you hate yourself too. So then the first thing is that you have to understand that the promises that the hate mongers make to you vis-a-vis their machinery of creating a popular culture are unattainable promises, because some of the things are just not going to happen. You see, if I use any damn product in the world, I'm not going to look like, say Jennifer Lopez. I say Jennifer Lopez because I really like her. So I'm not going to look like her. That's unattainable. So ये जो delusional expectations हैं, जो ये hate media आपको देती है, अपने आप को भी hate करवाती है, दूसरों को भी hate करवाती है, you have to understand you have to get into their head before they get into your head. Okay, and that goes for everything. I mean, pop culture takes you by a storm. It's everywhere. So you have to draw a line. कि मतलब enough is enough. So this enough is enough is a very, very important thing. So beyond a point, you don't have to try, to kind of adhere to the rules of the pop culture. So you have to break the rules. You have to, some things it's okay to give up. You don't need to try everything which the pop culture is telling you to do. It's okay to defy fads. And then there is this idea which they profess is, believing in yourself. Okay, I mean, really, as human beings, we are all flawed. We are all ordinary people. We have our own limitations, and we have to first understand that so that we give the same space to the other people. We are flawed, so therefore other person can also be flawed. So we need to understand that. And the idea that, life is going to be without any problems, happiness is a permanent state, all those are very, very, false ideas which are promoted through media. So we have to kind of, get rid of all those kind of ideas. So how do we kind of change our value system? I said to you that we need to change our value system. We change our value system because you see, there is a truth, which is this, that we and everyone we know is going to be dead. You see, it's a joy killer. The statement is a joy killer. It is something which, it's a fun spoiler. It doesn't sound very great to hear this, but this is the only certainty that we have. Rest everything is uncertain. And how uncertain life can be, we have simply realized it in the past few months. So that death and leaving everything behind is the only certainty that we have. So we need to focus on the spiritual. It may not be happening if you are in a group of young people. It may not be the happening thing to say that, well, I am spiritual. But that doesn't change the fact that you are not going to last on this earth forever. So you may or may not acknowledge it. You come with with a date of expiry. So we need to remember that date of expiry and then choose. Because that is when you know that, if you go to the market and you have limited money, you will choose very carefully. You will buy only the things which are most important because you can't waste money. You don't have money. In the same manner, you don't have time because time is limited. We are all going to be dead. So therefore, we have to make our choices extremely carefully. So we have to choose to make peace. We have to choose, that we are going to be open about our insecurities. We are not going to be a victim of the pop culture. But if perhaps we can make a popular culture which speaks of, peace and, happiness for everybody, happiness in the sense that there is contentment, let's work towards that. So we have to choose our problems. Say supposing aapka ye jo in Dialogue Foundation hai, it's working towards, creating world peace, right? Now, it's a problem that they have chosen. It's not as if creating world peace is not a problem. It's a problem. Just like there are some people, how do you make people listen to you? How do you make them understand that peace is important? How do you make them understand that harmony is the only way ahead? How do you make them understand that you have to accept diversity? How do you make them understand that, love is the key to everything? So it's a problem for the people who are working in the In Dialogue Foundation. And in the same manner, in some other organization, some other part of the world, it's a problem to make people understand that you must hate everybody around you. They also have a problem. So you have chosen a problem. So let's choose the best problems for us. The problems which make, the world a better place, let's choose those problems. Then we don't have to be robotic. because जो सब लोग कर रहे हैं वही हम भी करेंगे ये कोई जरूरी नहीं है. We don't have to be robotic. We need to live in the moment. We don't we are living in a time when people don't talk. See, because most of the people you would find they WhatsApp, they don't talk. You have the emojis, you don't have to emote anything through words. There is a pitch in the sound when you talk. There is happiness, there is sorrow, there is, there are n number of emotions which are conveyed just by sound. So all those are a minus. So then we must understand that we need to communicate. That's very important. And when we talk of communication, we need to understand that, see, we are, can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, right. So then we need to understand that, see, we are we are at a green light. When we say that I'm going to learn new things, I'm going to, see how I make the right choices. I have limited time. So when you look at those things, then you are in a green space and you are moving forward. Then if you come in a state of comfort where you feel कि बस मुझे तो सब आता है, मैंने सब सीख लिया, मुझे कुछ सीखने वीखने की जरूरत नहीं है, that is when you become static, because you need to revise your knowledge every time. There are always new things to learn. But one thing which is very important is that you mustn't lose the simplicity of communication, the simplicity of understanding, the simplicity of reconveying ideas of goodness to other people. And with this note, I would just go back to a poem which we heard when we were children. It went like this. We were very small. It went like this कि खेल कूद कर पढ़ना सीखो, सबसे आगे बढ़ना सीखो, सुबह को मत यूं शाम करो तुम, इल्म से पैदा नाम करो तुम सब हो आंखों के तारे, दिल की ठंडक राज दुलारे, तुम अरमानों का दामन हो, तुम उम्मीदों का गुलशन हो, तुम मुरझाए दिल की रौनक, तुम सारी महफिल की रौनक, दुनिया का हर खेल है तुमसे, प्यार मोहब्बत मेल है तुमसे, तुम जो ना हो तो हस्ती रोए, दुनिया की हर बस्ती रोए, हर शय से नफरत हो जाए, जीने से वहशत हो जाए, सीने में बेकार रहे दिल, दुनिया से बेजार रहे दिल, ये सूरज ये चांद सितारे, सुंदर सुंदर प्यारे प्यारे, ये भी हैं तुम सबके साथी, यानी बिन मतलब के साथी, बढ़ना और बढ़ाना सीखो, काम बड़ों के आना सीखो, आपस में तुम भाई भाई, दिल में ना रखो कोई बुराई, मेल मुरव्वत कायम रखो, प्यार मोहब्बत दायम रखो, रख लो तुम इस बात को दिल पर, आज के बच्चे कल के लीडर. So this is a poem which is, this is a part of the folk culture, and I think we need to stick to our, simple, sweet values that, that induct everybody with us, that spread love. And I think if there is a pop culture which is not promoting that kind of a system of, acceptance, then we just have to step aside and say that we have our own value system and we are going to stick by that value system. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful lecture and a really beautiful poem to end the lecture with. And yeah, I personally really liked how you explained what is pop culture, relating it to the early versions of folk culture, and where you talked about the importance of folk culture and the simplicity of word of mouth. So there is something that I would like you to engage with. I would like to engage with you on this notion. So when you were talking about this whole idea of simplicity of word of mouth, and I remember how we all grew up learning a lot about these folk stories from our grandparents, from our parents even. And we came like we are talking about the role of these pop culture in terms of religious harmony. So in those terms, I just wanted to reflect on how we all grew up listening to all these stories from our parents and grandparents, which talked about religious harmony. But like if we fast forward to right now and the role of fake news and WhatsApp forwards in also altering their own idea about these harmonies, their own idea about different religious groups. So how do you see that kind of journey that it has taken in this time?
Okay, see, Kajal, what I feel is that people do not know enough about their religions. And like I said to you, that there is a hate mongering machinery out there. They exploit this ignorance because there is no religion in the world which preaches hatred. Every religion talks about humanism. So it is that ignorance, that space, that vacuum these people fill with certain kind of ideas, and everyone will not be taking off time to understand those ideas. They're ready-made ideas. You float them, people will just take it. I mean, they're just on the go listening to the radio. 10 minute ke liye they would open the TV and see something, and then it rests in their head. So they don't know that. Therefore, it's important to kind of understand the the mind of the other people who are doing this, and also understand yourself and understand your religious scripture. I think that's very important, and that goes for every religion. I find that people of every religion, they don't know enough about their own religion. I think we're lacking there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is true. I totally agree with you. And in like to build upon that, I would like to ask you, how do you think, like as you're saying, this consumerist culture is also promoting these kind of ideas, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that since we cannot get out of this culture as quickly as we want to,
Yeah.
how do you think that can be actually used to our own advantage, and like teach more about what we are trying to do here, to teach more about these religious harmonies using pop culture in this sense?
Right. See, I feel that your in dialogue is already doing quite a bit of it. You see, because you are creating awareness about it. Perhaps if we have enough of resources, we could also have, if other people can have t-shirts and caps and hats and cups and do whatever, we can also have stuff like that. We can also make songs like that. We can, we can approach perhaps with the same kind of tools, but make our own building, you see. So the tools might be the same, but our building is going to be different from the other building. So we can, of course, do that, because if the hate mongers have certain tools and agencies backing them up, then we have tools and agencies which are also working for peace. So let's pitch in whatever bit we can do. I think all of us need to pitch in. And isme again, the word of mouth becomes very important. How do you create a psyche around you? And then creating a psyche around you, I think it's also very important to become an example, to become an example. You may find that materially you might lose sometimes. Sometimes you'll have to actually swallow your ego and, sacrifice in that sense, but it's entirely worth it. That you become an example of, someone who accepts and who loves unconditionally. Because you see, we in our own ancient Indian culture, we had a lot of emphasis on self-sacrifice. अगर आप Karl Marx को पढ़ें, तो Karl Marx तो यही कहता है कि हिंदुस्तानी जो हैं, they used to be always so self-sacrificing. So I think those were values which somehow got lost in competitiveness. So I think we need to kind of, some things we need to just say that we have to stop competing all the time. We have to kind of, get rid of competition everywhere. Let people be.
That is true. So we have a few questions in the chat box that I'll present to you now.
Yes, please.
This is a question from Aman Niaz. Aman is from Delhi, and he thanks you for a great talk. His question is how to stay calm and composed when you face people of opposite or negative mentality at every stage of your life, and it gets beyond tolerance.
Okay, see, there is a phenomena where you focus on the temporariness of the situation. Okay, so supposing you are in a situation where somebody is screaming at you, you need to remember that, this is temporary, because how long is someone going to scream at you? You have to kind of just put up with it. And you have to then focus. You have to, mentally be very strong, and you have to focus on the future. Like I said to you, that you don't have to focus on your emotions, but you have to focus on your goals. And you have to make it a habit that I do not have to react. I have to only act, because reaction is, controlled by somebody else's action. So you have to take an action. You don't have to give a reaction every time, right? So you need to understand that. And then anger is an emotion, see, and anger is an emotion which is a natural emotion. So everyone will have some kind of anger within them, and there'll always be an urge to kind of, reply back, and maybe even get physical if someone's, in an abusive mode with you. But then you need to, again, understand that anger has to be limited and controlled. I have seen people who take pride in being short-tempered. They take pride in being angry and saying that, well, I am like this, you see. Ek selfie mein, there was, a caption which was coming, sorry, but not sorry, because I am what I am. Aapne dekha hoga, wo jooton ke kisi ke ishtihar mein bhi tha, I am what I am. So sorry, not sorry, I am what I am. Okay, fine, you are what you are, but then you don't have to go around trampling others, you see. So you need to first understand that. And once you feel that the other person is doing something which is hurting you, you should be clear that I am not going to do this. I am not this person. You have to have your own value system, and you're not going to budge from there. Okay. And I would cite something from the Nahjul Balagha. The Nahjul Balagha is a collection of the sayings of Hazrat Ali. And he had said that the bravest man is not the one who defeats somebody in a war. The bravest man is that who can control his own anger. So it's always a war with yourself. It's always a war with yourself. You are the dragon, you are the hero. You have to see what you have to do.
That's very, very insightful. That's an interesting thing. So we have another question from Shiv.
Yeah.
He again thanks you for this very meaningful talk. And he asks, what can be the means to use this popular culture vehicle to change the world into a better one, which is full of respect to each other, no discrimination, cleanliness around us, maintaining the nature as beautiful as it is in its original piece? What is the way of creating a demand towards these, and who will address to these demands?
Okay, so I think we need to kind of, start with ourselves. I think the first step is, starting with ourselves. Like I said to you, that the hate mongering industry first makes you hate yourself. And then, that hate grows into other kind of things. So you have to first, kind of love yourself and be in a position where you feel confident about yourself. And then, of course, you can take charge of whatever you can do in your capacity, in your neighborhood, in your immediate context, to create a popular culture which is conducive to kind of, social harmony. Now, how do you do this? Say, for example, if you're working in an office, right? Then you must understand that you have to take care of the, the feelings of your co-workers, right? So if you have co-workers who belong to other religions and other communities, you have to be sensitive to their comfort. You have to be sensitive to, what they would like to hear from you. Say, for example, and the other important thing here is this, that you need to understand that everything which is important for you may not be important for the other person. And everything which is important for the other person may not be important for you, but you have to remember that it's important for him. Therefore, I am going to, ensure that I do my part. I'll give you an example. That, there was somebody who said that, well, I wish Diwali to all my friends. Say, for an example, I would say that I wish Diwali to all my friends, but they don't wish Eid to me. Okay. Now, or it can be vice versa. It can be vice versa also. That, you go on wishing Eid to people and they don't wish you on Diwali and don't wish you on Holi. They don't remember ki aaj ye festival hai. Okay? Then you need to understand that what is important for you may not be important for them. So they are forgiven. Khatam. Pehle to ye forgiveness to wahi khatam. Okay? Now the next step comes. The next step is this, that you are going to be a participant in their happiness. even if it has to be for 30 decades. 30 decades भी नहीं पहुंचेगा, 2 साल में वो आपको विश करने लगेंगे, because human beings are programmed to love each other. We are pre-programmed to love each other. I can promise you that. And everything which is coming from outside, all the hate and resentment, it's a paint which is only superficial. You scrape the paint, there is a pure, undying soul which is pre-programmed to love everyone. You love people, you feel happy, you see. So you have to work like that. And then you keep increasing your ambit. You see what more can you do, and keep increasing that, broadening your arena of, interaction.
Sure, thank you, ma'am. We have another question from Irfan Khan.
Yeah.
Acceptance of hate-monger ideology also suggested the psyche of our being ideology, and the current scenario is the best example. How can we cope up with so much anger and hatred when we are trying to reach out to them?
See, first of all, that you have to be calm yourself. That is very, very important. You have to be calm yourself. And you have to work in an organized, systematic way. You need to win people's confidence. It may not be easy. It might take time. And there are some things, you see what the visionaries do. The visionaries, when they plant a tree, they don't think that they are going to, eat the fruit of those trees. They may not get to eat the fruit of those trees, but they plant it for the future generations. So if you think that there is already so much of hate which has been built up, it's not been built up overnight. It's been built over the years. It's been built up very systematically. It's going to be dismantled also very systematically. That will also take time. And you have to be a part of the process. So either you can be a part of the process of, dismantling hate, and you may not see it. You have to remember that you have to be a visionary who is, looking into the future, looking into a future where the world will be a peaceful place. And you sacrifice whatever has to be sacrificed for it today. And you do it. And you believe that this is going to happen. And that is the only way that you can do it. And that you can do only when you believe in the goodness of human beings, because every religion has good things to say. Every religion has good things to say. And every soul is pure. It's absolutely pure, immaculate. So we need to totally believe in this. जैसे वो कबीर का, let me just tell you that कबीर का वो जो कपलेट है कि झीनी झीनी बीनी चदरिया, काहे का ताना काहे का बाना, कौन तार से बीनी चदरिया. And then in the end he says कि दास कबीर ध्यान कर राख्यो जस के तस धर दीनी चदरिया. So he says कि मैंने जो सोल था मेरा, वो मैंने इतना संभाल के उसको इस दुनिया में यूज करा कि that when I died, I returned that chadar back to God as He had given it to me, just ke tas, as it is. So I think that is what the goal should be. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really appreciate how you are weaving the actual popular culture in terms of, as you said, Kabir's couplet or a very beautiful poem. That does explain a lot, and that does it makes a lot more sense when you weave all these things into it, and we get a clearer picture of your insights. So there is another question. This is from Behzad Fatmi. He asks, can you name some people or platforms who/which are using pop culture to promote social harmony?
I think a lot of it is being done by people who are writing songs. You see, a lot of cinema is doing that, because a lot of cinema, a lot of serials, a lot of poets are people who are doing it. Say, for example, I would name Javed Akhtar for an example. He is someone who is trying to do this. There are novelists who are trying to do the same. And they are, in fact, the novelists, a lot of them who talk about, say Mark Mason, for an example. Mark Mason hai, ya Paulo Coelho hai. They are people who make you look beyond the immediate, and they make you look beyond, the narrower picture. So what is the big picture? What is, what is life about, what is your journey in this earth about. So I think those kind of people are doing a lot. Then I think the Sufis and the Bhaktas in the past had done a lot. So as scholars, perhaps we can, rework on what they had said and present what they had already written in a more modern format, which will appeal to the young generation of today. So we can always rework on those kind of lines. I think that may be helpful. Then there are historians who are working a lot on this, people from literature who are working on stuff like this.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a really interesting lecture. I personally learned a lot, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. So, like to all our listeners as well, and you all can. Hello.
Kajal, your voice is breaking.
Yeah,
I
did
can't
you
hear
say
you.
something? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Kajal.
Okay. Yeah, I just saying that I personally really enjoyed your lecture because I did learn a lot, and pop culture is something that I'm also very much interested in studying. And I really liked your input on how you traced it from the very beginning, and how you presented it in current forms, and how it can have a lot of potential that we generally do not look at. So thank you so much for that, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. So to our listeners, thank you so much for being here, for joining us today. And you can revisit this entire lecture on our YouTube channel. You can check out the In Dialogue Foundation YouTube channel. And you can also subscribe to our channel, and to stay updated with this webinar series. And you can also send in your questions in the comment section on the channel. And we hope to see you next week at the same time for our next lecture in the series. Thank you so much for today. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, organizers. Thank you, the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.